That was loud and obnoxious. Did you hear that too?
Yeah, no, I love it.
Okay, it's like you are also being recorded, motherfucker. That's fine. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the How to Do Drugs podcast. I am your host, Aaliyah Janine, and I am back from not having a computer, which is really nice because I wasn't able to record any episodes or edit any of the episodes that I previously had. So there was a couple weeks with just no episodes. I just said, fuck it. Because that's the way I do things. And then finally the new computer came and it is fancy. It's so big. It's nice. It's very nice. Today, you know what? I should have asked how I to pronounce your last name before I started recording, but I'm stoned, so that's fine. I know it's Mishka, right?
It's Mishka.
Mishka. Oh,
people have been calling me Mishka for like fucking 15 years.
Mishka.
So I don't hold it against you for at least you asked. At least you didn't pronounce it Steven. You know.
Well, my name's actually pronounced Alia, but there's like 5 people who call me Alia. It's normally just Aaliyah because it's just easier for white people. I've come to the conclusion.
Bingo. Yeah. I mean, there's a certain point in your life where you're just like, fuck it, I give up.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, it is. Well, I mean, it's also that American Mishka. So it's Mishka, which actually also makes sense. Mishka and then I'm not even, how do you say your last name?
Shubaly.
Shubaly. Okay. Yeah. That's not what I was going to say. I am really bad with names. People who have listened to the show know my tongue doesn't work. Yeah. All right. So you're on the show today.
What's your face? You're on the show.
No, we've been Twitter buddies for a while, which is cool. Yeah. I think, I don't really know, but for a while, some people like are cool, that like you follow back and stuff like that. And then you interact and then it's cool. And then you get to do podcasts and stuff like that. And other people, you unfollow and end up blocking, Twitter. Too bad you can't do that in real life. That'd be great. Just put a block up and be like, I can't see you anymore.
See, I've tried to do that in real life. Like, if I see a girl I like, I just tell her, I'm following you.
Yeah.
No, it hasn't worked out so great so far.
No. Or like Facebook has the poke and you're just go up to people randomly poking people.
Yeah, maybe we're just better off living like just yelling at our computers.
It may be safer. Definitely less diseases. Right?
Yes, okay. Fewer viruses, I guess.
Well, I mean, computers have viruses too, but computer AIDS, right?
There have been many times when I was staring at my computer where I was like, I would rather have chlamydia because chlamydia I know how to fix, and this is above my pay grade.
Yeah, chlamydia is as someone who has had chlamydia twice. No, I had gonorrhea twice. I only had chlamydia once, kind of. I didn't test positive for it, but someone I worked with had it and he told me, so I just went and got the drugs for it. I was like, we're just going to go through the process.
My 15-year-old niece was visiting me. She just turned 15 and I went down to Bisbee to hang out and to sort of show her around. And we hung out with Christine Levine, who I fucking adore. And I don't know if you know this about me. I don't spend a lot of time around just turned 15-year-old girls. So I had no idea like how to talk to her or how to interact with her. So I was like, and I sort of like got it wrong and got it right. And like, I took her to the petting zoo on the way down there and we got to fucking see the stingrays and little birds and shit like that. And it was amazing. But I was also wondering what level of honesty do you have with your niece who's just turned 15?
Yeah.
Then we had dinner with Christine Levine and she was like, oh, sorry guys, dinner is going to be late. I have to run down to Mexico to get drugs. Not like drugs, just like, painkillers for my bone rot and drugs for chlamydia. Coco, have you ever had chlamydia? It's nothing. Everybody gets it all the time. I've had it many times. You'll get it too, unless you live your life in a fucking museum. And I was like, well, okay, a cat's out of the bag, right?
Yeah. Well, I think too, especially with access to the internet, kids are definitely a lot, they know a lot more than we did. Like, cause I'm 42. So, I mean, I was lucky to know about that stuff because my mom was a registered nurse. So especially STDs and how babies came about. I knew about that, but yeah, like kids probably do know a lot more, even though they don't realize that they do, because everything is so fast and all the information that they're getting, some of the stuff may stick, some of the stuff may not. But I especially think with like sex and drugs, that they probably have more knowledge now than we did maybe when we were that age. Because like, even though I was partying and stuff like that, like we didn't have like the different strains. Like we were always getting like that brickweed, with all the fucking sticks, because that's what we had at that time. And all of a sudden the weed started getting better. And now they have like, they could just go into a fucking dispensary and get it. So yeah, I'm sure their knowledge on that kind of stuff maybe more than we think.
One thing's for sure though is that regardless of how much knowledge they have, they definitely don't want to talk about it with their weird uncle.
I actually talked about a lot of stuff with my uncle, but he wasn't you're not weird, but yeah, because it's not your dad, you know what I mean? It's like still a family member and it's not like your dad, so like you can't get in as much trouble. For me, like I always felt more comfortable talking to like my aunts and uncles about stuff, and then they would pass the information on to my parents, and we'll see. That was just me though.
I did a long car trip with my nephew who was, I think he was like 17 or 18 at the time. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is, I need to talk to him about the, fucking alt-right and Proud Boys and fucking the sort of evolving state of consent and like all this shit, and I don't know how, I don't fucking have kids. I don't know how to do this, but I was like, I need to do this. This is my role as the fucking uncle. So I tried to talk to him about like homophobia and transphobia and stuff like that. And I built it up in this, like was sort of rehearsing like in the bathroom in my head. And then I was like, well, Mika, that, we recognize now that people, sort of are born on a gender spectrum and, and I was sort of like building up a head of steam to launch into this whole thing. And he was like, yeah, no, I know that, there are sort of like boys and girls and then like an infinite number of gradations in between. And I don't care if people want to have sex with boys or girls or what they do, as long as it doesn't hurt me. And I was like, what? Like,
and you're like, you're all prepared, but also relieved.
I was like, dude, you didn't even let me get to the fucking, what are we going to talk about for the next 45 minutes? Like, I had this whole fucking thing. You're already more evolved than I am. Than I, at 44. But also, yeah, I mean, I think we tend to see like the negative shit, and you just read the newspaper and they're.
Well, we also grew up with the negative side. Like I just watched that, was it the Music Box, the Woodstock 99 documentary, and how they were talking about how like toxic masculinity was back then. And it really was. Like once I was watching that, I'm like, oh yeah, no, we did grow up with that. Like I grew up I'm like, I wanted to do like Girls Gone Wild. I was like that was something I was like, I could do that. I got titties, kind of thing. And yeah, so it really, and now like it may be going a little extreme with some of this stuff, people trying to cancel people for jokes and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, like it's good. Like sexuality has always been a spectrum. It's just religion. And like, I want to say like the Middle Ages kind of was like, we can't do that. That's gross. Probably the British or something. I don't know.
It's just so weird for me to like hang out with a young man who never grew up with like gay as a pejorative term and didn't like from, it's like the way that I grew up, it's like one day you look down and you're like, oh, I have like a little thing between my legs. And then the next day people are like, better not be gay. Better hope you're not gay. What if you're gay? And so you just grow up with this fear of like, oh, I saw a boner in porn and now I think I'm gay.
Yeah.
And like, it's weird to, I mean, it's cool. I don't think that kids should grow up with that, like,
with that fear of just like, am I gay? It's like, who cares if you are? If you like a little dick, suck a little dick. It is what it is. Yeah, it is. It is like the change is good, but I also think that like, I mean, because it's like in the process of doing it, that it is going to be really uncomfortable. And then sooner or later it will smooth out where people can take jokes and not get so easily offended, and people won't be so aggressively fighting it, as much, or at least like they'll be closeted.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I was thinking when I was talking, to my nephew, is that I was like, if the person he's making uncomfortable is me, by his lack of casual homophobia.
Mm-hmm.
That's fucking great, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like, and the shit that's going on now, I mean, you see all these comics who are just like fucking crying about it. And it's like, dude, this is the fucking stretch marks phase from like when you go from, you know, being fucking 11 to 16 or whatever. And we're going to fucking get through it and we're going to be fine. It's part of growing up, you know, like.
Yep, it's part of evolving. It really is a part of evolution. And there's a lot of people who don't like to evolve. They don't like change. My great grandpa is one of those, but he's dead now. So that's yeah, like
so
he died at like 98. And once you get like to that age, it's like, are you really going to change their mind about certain things? Like he used to drop the N-bomb all the time, and we're Native American, but that was still like a thing that he did. And we're just like, you can't say that word, you know, and it's just like, he's like, whatever. So, but yeah, he's dead now. So it's okay.
But he's dropping N-bombs in heaven. The great white spirit. But that is the thing too, is, you know, like with my dad, you know, it's like I can try to change him and ruin Thanksgiving, or just be like, hey dad, you love the Steve Miller Band, right?
Yeah,
you know? Like,
just keep it simple. Yeah, that's what I do.
You know, but I mean, I don't know. I'll be honest, like I don't fucking like changing either, or
no, it's uncomfortable, it's gross. Yeah.
You know, I go back and look, you know, I go back and listen to some of the songs I wrote when I was younger, or like some of the shit that I wrote, and I'm like, oh fuck. Oh man, I should just go hide in a cave.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because those were feelings that you felt at that particular time. And then now that you're older, you have more life experience. You've dealt with other things. Yeah, you look back, like I still have my fucking diary, you know, my journals from when I was a teenager. I was like, I was pathetic. Like, I was so like angsty, just a typical teenage girl. Oh, so funny.
Some of it for me is the, you know, the sort of like trademark toxic masculinity shit, but other this sucks to cop to, but I think I'm more embarrassed about the bad writing. You know, where I'm like, okay, this is totally, you know, sort of barely closeted racism and just over the top misogyny, but what's really unforgivable is this extended metaphor.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just certain things where you're like, okay, that's
you need to evolve to the point of using commas.
Commas are very important. I use them maybe a little too much, but that's okay. I used to write a lot of college papers, APA style, and I used to get a lot of trouble for commas, which is fine. I still got A's, so I'm fine. So let's get into drugs. So we were talking about talking with younger kids. Did you talk to either your niece or your nephew about drugs? Do you think that they do drugs, or have they done them?
Yeah, no, they're fucking nerds, dorks, squares. I mean, I think my role as the uncle is going to be to introduce them to drugs. You know, I had, you know, most of my mom comes from a family of 17, so I have like 60 some cousins, and I'm older than most of them, and we were hanging out once in Canada, and they sort of cornered me, and they were like, we know that you know about drugs. And I was like, why, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And they were like, tell us. And I was like, everybody needs to do mushrooms, and you probably don't need to do cocaine because you're sufficiently annoying already. And you know, never inject anything, and be real careful with like fucking pills and powders, you know?
Yeah. Which is a great drug talk, to be honest.
You know, and I also, you know, gave them the speech too, that like, you know, when you're a dude and you get too fucked up, you like wake up, you know, in a field, and you have to fucking walk home and whatever. And sadly, when you're a woman and you get too fucked up, there's a whole different fucking bad thing that
waking up in some strange dude's bed. I've woken up in the middle of fields as well, because I've always been more of a dude anyway when it comes to partying and stuff like that. I'm also violent, and a lot of people were very afraid of my father in high school, so I didn't really have to worry about that. Thank God. For the most part, at least. But yeah, the drug talk, especially with kids, like, I do think it's like, I think people should try stand-up comedy and stripping at least once, you know, like you should do something that absolutely terrifies you. Like, I am terrified of singing and like karaoke. So every once in a while, my friends be like, karaoke. And I'm like, fuck, I start hyperventilating. I'm like, all right, let's go do some fucking karaoke or something. But when it comes with certain drugs, like, I definitely think people should try mushrooms and maybe acid. I'm a big fan of cocaine, but yeah, especially like I also think though that you may need to know like your personality, you know, because I definitely have like one of those very addictive type personalities, and if you think that something like cocaine or even heroin could be, if it's enticing to you in a way, then maybe like kind of stay away from that one. But like, yeah, once you do it, it's kind of over. Once you've had that taste, it's like a vampire. Once you had that taste of blood, you can't go back.
I mean, I guess that's the flip side of, you know, Eleanor Roosevelt's quote of like, every day you should do some stripping. Or I mean, every day you should do something that scares you. And also, if you really, really, really want to do something, maybe you should lay off, or at least not fucking inject it.
Yeah, that's one thing, thank God I never got into injecting, although like I've said this before, I think with Doug Stanhope, that yeah, like if I'm terminally ill, fucking shoot me up.
Yeah. No, I had
like, if I'm going, fuck it.
When I was living in New York at like the end of my drinking career, I had a brief affair, flirtation, I don't know, the fling with an opiate called Opana, which I thought was like fucking Percocet or whatever. And then and I'd been using it for a while, and then I was like snorting morphine with this girl, and I felt nothing. And I was like, wait, if I'm snorting morphine and feeling nothing, what's in this drug that has been getting me colossally high? And I looked it up, and it was sort of like, you know, laboratory made heroin.
Yeah.
Know? And then on all the sort of opiate forums, you know, there's the guy who was like, oh, I've been mainlining heroin for 27 years and never felt something like this. Jesus. And I was like, oh, fuck me. What have I got?
And you're just popping them like they're Percocet.
Oh yeah, no, I was, well, they weren't even time released. So it was really, it was like crushing up like fucking sweet tarts.
Okay.
You know, and like, it was just perfect for snorting. And and coming off that was incredibly hard, but I have like not like wet dreams, but definitely fucking boner dreams about them, where I'm like a rat with like an Opana tablet like the size of a fucking ottoman, and I'm just like gnawing on it with a big fucking hard on, like pumping the pill, you know, because I definitely had that like that pleasure center, the drug vampire thing in your brain, like it got to me, you know?
And that's just that one that calls you every once in a while in the back. And then sometimes you don't even realize and be like, I'm like having dinner with my mom, why do I want to do a bump all of a sudden? Like there's nothing, just all of a sudden something triggers it. And it is a beast that you definitely have to consciously fight. You definitely have to consciously fight that. So you don't drink anymore at all. Like you told me that like one high life and you basically be dead. When did you really start drinking heavily? Like, and what was the cause of your heavy drinking?
When I was a kid, I think, you know, my parents came from a sort of like very, you know, like drinking culture. Like neither of my parents are alcoholic, but they just, you know, they were like sort of farm kids from the prairies. And, you know, everybody there had, you know, a fucking bottle of like hooch in the back of their car or whatever. So I, you know, sort of like, you know, got a drink here or there when I was a kid, but then I think I was probably like 12 or 13 the first time I drank like a fucking 6-pack of Tall Boys or something like that and got plastered. And I just had that sensation where I was like, I have finally become who I am. And this is who I will be for the rest of my life. You know, that this is my calling, you know, and you know, you think there's always this, if you're reading a biography of like a musician or something like that, they talk about like, oh, the first time I heard, you know, fucking Dickie Betts play or whatever, that's what woke me up, you know, or whatever. And for me, it was fucking Budweiser. It was getting hammered. And I was like, I will do this all the time.
Yeah.
And
because of the way that it made you feel and stuff like that. Like, especially when you drink, like those inhibitions are gone, like you're happier, you're more vocal, like more social and stuff. You're like, oh, I like this version of myself, especially when you're younger and like you're still trying to figure out who you are. And like, even, you know, that whole landscape and puberty and all that other stuff. Yeah. I could see drinking being very like, I like this person.
Yeah. I was like, you know, kind of an awkward, like melancholy kid. And you know, and kind of shy and like hyper self-aware and stuff like that. And then, but also too, like, you know, I was very aware of like, I was aware that like my dad was a pussy and that I wanted to be a tough guy.
Okay.
You know? And I sort of figured out early on that like alcohol was this shortcut to toughness, to being like a badass or a hard ass or whatever, you know, sort of all the guys I thought were, you know, cool drank. And I, you
drinking
know,
beer, crushing beer cans and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and also, I mean, when I was 16, I discovered Johnny Cash live at Folsom and San Quentin. And somebody, my buddy who lived across the hall from me, walked into my door one morning and like kicked beer cans out of the way and was like, you need to read this book, and threw a book at me and then walked out. And I looked at the book and it was Women by Charles Bukowski. And he should have just given me like explosives or like a fucking bag full of rattlesnakes, or you know what I mean? Those books, or that book, that album, and alcohol. Fucking hell, man. That like, it just wreaked so much havoc on my life for such a long time.
Yeah.
You know, I still feel like I'm recovering from it. Like I read a fucking Bukowski line and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no.
He does bring that out in people. Do you think was your music really affected by the drinking and stuff like that? Do you think it was?
Yeah, I mean, that was, for me, that was one of the hardest things about getting sober, was that I built this entire identity, not just around being the sort of like drunk party guy, but being hungover and like being broke, being heartbroken, feeling bad, being fucking down on your luck, and like and I guess the good thing is that it resonated with people, and the bad thing is it's resonated with the worst people. You know, and you know, whenever I get a message or somebody comes up to me at the merch table and they're like, man, I've been listening to your music nonstop. I'm like, are you okay? You want me to call somebody? You know, like, because it's, you know, it's like self-pity porn or something, you know. And I when I quit drinking, I didn't play I didn't play my own music for 5 years. And then I had a couple of shows opening up for Doug, and I was like, oh fuck, I need to go back and like relearn these songs. And as I was relearning the songs, I would sort of, you know, you're focusing on like playing the chords right and like, you know, singing the words right. And then every once in a while I would sort of like tune out and then tune back in and like hear what was going on in the song. And I was like, oh my God, I hope this guy is okay. You know, and I would just totally lose perspective that it was me, you know? So I don't know, man. I mean, it's weird, you know, at this point, like I've been sober for a dozen years. I've found my sweet spot of like, I've been an outspoken proponent for mushrooms and DMT and acid as actually, you know, powerful anti-addiction medications. I used ketamine recently, and I had like a really great experience with that. You know, at this point in my life, I'm not just like grateful to be sober. I'm also grateful that I was a drunk for such a long time. It taught me empathy.
Yeah.
for other human beings. You know, I mean, I was like a fucking 13-year-old social Darwin.
Yeah. Humility.
Yeah, like, why don't these people get jobs? You know, and now like when I see somebody living under a bridge, you know, I don't have to go to great lengths to remind myself that like there's a human being there.
Yeah.
And also like there, but for the grace of mom go I. You know, there were plenty of times in my life where shit could have taken a left turn, and
you could have been that guy.
Yeah, I could just wound up outdoors, you know.
Yeah. So you said that you just taken ketamine. Now they've been doing a lot of things with ketamine with like depression and stuff like that. Like I guess it's they have like little vape things and stuff like that. And I guess it's a lot of the studies have shown that it's helped with depression. What made you try ketamine, and tell me about your experience with it?
Have you done ketamine before?
Oh yeah, my ex used to sell it.
You're like, oh lordy.
I've been stuck in a hole a few times.
You're like, I'm just a pile of ketamine wearing headphones. So I went through some really horrible shit in November that I can't really talk about, and that I'm still having a hard time getting through. Okay. And I'm at a point where I'm like, I'll fucking try anything, you know, like, I'm even actually going to start going to real therapy, you know. But I was looking into, you know, I smoked DMT with some friends a little while ago, and that was sort of like temporarily helpful. And I saw my cat as like a sort of sexy guardian figure, which I don't want to talk too much about that.
Understood.
The things there we don't need to know. But then I was looking into this sort of like ketamine therapy, and I got really interested in it, and I filled out like the online thing, and they were like, you're an excellent you know, candidate for it. Please send us $1,000. And I was like, go fuck yourself. Right. I know a guy. Been sober 12 years, but I still know a fucking guy.
Right.
You know?
Never not know a guy.
Yeah. So I reached out to a friend, and they, I mean, I love having the like drug aficionado buddy who's like, oh, you would really enjoy, don't, you know, not just shrooms, but is it, you know, penis envy or golden teacher? And I was like, wait, is this a fucking wine course? Like, what is this? You know, the fucking nerds. But God bless the drug nerds, because, you know, he was like, what do you weigh? And I was like, well, before I poop or after I poop, so he gave me 2 doses of ketamine, sort of enough for me to do 2 different trips. And I'm sober alcoholic, so I did them both at once, and was fucking immobilized, staring at a flashing light. Yeah. But I sort of went into it with an intention, as they say in yoga. And you know, I knew what I was going to think about while I was there, and sort of how I was going to proceed or whatever. And just spent, I don't know, an eternity laying there pleasantly paralyzed, babbling, just sort of like, you know, sort of surfing through this, you know, wave of emotion. Yeah. Not totally like out of my body like DMT, but also not, you know, sort of like out of my mind in a pleasant way, like in my emotions, but not in my intellect or something like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, you went in with an intention too. So that's the thing that you wanted to focus on as well. So that probably helped with that. You know, and I haven't really talked about this, but I guess we sort of touched on a little bit, you know, that like there's, I think one of the things that people are so resistant to with sort of like woke culture is, you know, the prescriptive thing about you're supposed to feel this way, or you're not supposed to feel this way, or you're not supposed to have this thought, or you're not supposed to have that thought, or whatever, you know, like the think police. Yeah. And like, I have rape dreams often, but I've had a couple in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up and feel fucking horrible, like you're a criminal, like you're, you know, some fucking, you know, vile deviant or whatever. And it's just, it's like fucking, I mean, unless you're dreaming about it every night, or you dream about it and you fucking wake up and beat off, you know, it's just it's like your brain scanning through channels or something like that. And you
it's just putting random shit together that you have no control over whatsoever.
Or maybe, you know, don't watch fucking SVU before you go to sleep or something.
Exactly.
Like that. Or don't eat onions before you go to sleep. I don't know what it is, you know, but sometimes it's just noise. And in sort of like trying to process, like, you know, what's been going on the last 6 to 8 months, I think there's been a lot of you know, we do this thing of like, oh, if you have a dog that dies, you know, then you're like, oh, well, it's white privilege to feel sad about that dog, or it's Western, or, you know, in Burkina Faso, in sub-Saharan Africa, you know, like they're not even allowed to keep dogs as pets. So
most of the time they're food for other cultures.
So I'm not going to allow myself to feel grief, and that's fucking bullshit. You just have to feel what you're gonna feel, and, you know,
understand why you feel that way, and then move on.
And write about it in your fucking diary. Use extended metaphors, you know. But I think I do believe in it's such a fucking weird word, but I believe in like woke culture. I believe I believe that people can say or do things that should make us fucking yank their funding, you know. Not in every instance, you know, but also fucking Louis C.K. is still working. You know, like it's sort of like cancel culture doesn't exist, you know.
And he didn't even say anything. He was just jacking off in front of chicks without their permission. I've always said, I'm like, at least he could have just paid them. I'm like, I wouldn't have made him pay me. I'm like, that's money. Out. I bet you all those chicks have OnlyFans now, though. I'm gonna
don't leave it on the table. But, you know, I mean, I believe all that shit, you know. I believe that, you know, particularly, you know, whatever, I'm a fucking 6'5" straight white man with a deep voice. I have all kinds of fucking privilege, you know, and I do think it's important to acknowledge it. But I think in trying to like fucking get over what's been eating at me, what I've been doing is like putting up obstacles to actually processing those feelings and actually feeling those feelings, you know. And it's like
feeling sucks sometimes, all of the time.
And, you know, if you wake up with fucking rot gut from drinking like tequila, you can try not to puke all day long, and you're just going to feel like dog shit all day long. Or you can be like, fuck it, go to the bathroom, stick your toothbrush down your throat,
purge it,
throw up, drink a Gatorade, eat some food, and then you feel better. You know? So I think it's really just that I gotta find a way to get those obstacles out of the way, so that I can just feel what I need to feel. And
process the feelings.
And ketamine was super helpful with that, you know. And also it was like euphoric. So it's it was sort of like I keep going back to the metaphor of like eternal sunshine of a spotless mind, you know. It was sort of like you can reflect on a relationship but carefully forget all the times they were fucking horrible to you. Instead, remember all the times they like got you a thing for your birthday, or
you want to remember all the nice things. That tends to be. Oh, go ahead.
I felt like ketamine allowed me to sort of like cherry pick and like turn up the volume on the positive things and turn down the volume on the negative things.
Where you're able to focus more, because a lot of times people do get stuck just focusing on the negative, and then that's all they think about. It would depend, relationships or just anything, you know, life in general. If you keep focusing on like maybe you're unemployed, or like you don't know what you want to do, or, you know, that kind of stuff, you're never going to figure it out, because all you're doing is focusing on why you don't feel good because of these things, instead of be like, okay, well, if I think this way, like I told one of my buddies, I'm like, for every time you think of something, like if there's a negative thought that pops in your head, think of 2 positive things. Like, I don't have any positive things. I'm like, I gave him a list of stuff. I'm like, and you can add to this. He's like, I don't believe any of that. I'm like, well, for me, that's kind of like a fake it till you make it thing, because these are all things, and everyone that you know are going to say that these are qualities that you have. You're just not seeing them right now because you don't want to. So whenever you're ready to see those things, you will see them. But until then, you're not. And sometimes, especially when it comes with depression and stuff like that, it's hard because you're fucking depressed and your brain is like, you suck and you should die now. And then stuff like ketamine. When I did it, like I was very young. I was like 19. I don't think it was even legal to drink yet. It was like raver. It was, you know, the late 90s, early 2000s in Chicago, like the Chicago raver scene there. His uncle was a veterinarian, so his cousin used to steal vials. We used to just get a whole box of fucking ketamine, and we would cook it up. You know, we would boil a pot of water, you put a plate on top, put the liquid on so it turns into powder. If we were in a hurry, we have to throw it in the microwave, but you have to put something over it. It will start popping. But I was really big into like coke, and like I was dabbling with meth at that time. So it's like 2 completely, like the relationship did not last very long, obviously, at all. I need to start an app called Bender. So it's like you find the person that does the same drugs as you. But the couple of times that I did do it, like I obviously at first it kind of made me feel like really like light, like just a whole weight was lifted off of me. And then I do a little bit more, and then I kind of felt like I was getting like that drunk, like I had like, you know, a good couple of drinks, or I had that good buzz going. And then I did more, and then it just made me feel nauseous most of the time. And then like you get stuck in like a K-hole. I never did enough, I don't think, to really be in a K-hole. I always just like made myself throw up afterwards. I'm like, this sucks. So I never really did it for like benefactorial things, because my mom, being a nurse, because like they also use ketamine, you know, for labor, you know, for pain. It is kind of like, it could be used for like a pain thing as well, because of like that light feeling that you get, and you do kind of feel it's like a very, I want to say maybe like a sedative kind of thing. But that's great that it's helped. Do you think you're gonna try more to help you work through this stuff, or?
Yeah, I mean, I start therapy this week, next week, and I'm gonna do EMDR,
Okay.
which I haven't done, you know, before, but you know, people who I know who have like lived through trauma have, you know, have said that it's, you know, been super helpful with them sort of processing stuff. But I had to go in and fill out like a fucking intake exam for it, you know, and never be like, they say honesty is a good thing. Don't be totally those alcohol questionnaires and shit like that. Like, have you ever thought about harming yourself? Don't check off the fucking everyday box.
Yeah.
Because
They want to lock you up.
Yeah, I almost got committed. And they were like, you know, do you think about suicide? And I was like, do I? I've made a fucking career out of it. Are you kidding? Like, listen to my last record. You know, you know, you want it in 3/4 or 4/4, you know, so I was like honest about, you know, suicidal ideation and stuff like that. And suddenly the room was full of people. And you know, I was talking to this doctor, this sort of like well-intentioned doctor, and what made me think of this is what you were, you know, the way you were sort of coaching your friend, you know, and he said, well, you know, maybe when you have these, you know, suicidal, you know, these feelings that like, oh, well, if I was dead, I wouldn't have to do my laundry. Like when you have thoughts like that, just, you know, sort of try to back away from it. And I was like, actually, that's terrible advice. Instead, what you need to do is go forward, go deeper into it. So I fucking kill myself, right? I take enough pills to die. So there's a body left. Who deals with that? My mom lives 4 doors down the street. It would ruin her fucking life to have to drag my fucking carcass out, or, you know, and on an even more, you know, sort of just elemental level, like, well, death, what's that like? You know, I don't believe in fucking God or gods or afterlife or anything like that. So when I'm dead, I'm just gone. And that means like no more dogs.
Yeah.
No more dogs, no more driving down the street and you hear a CCR song and then, oh, it's 2 for Tuesday.
Yeah.
They play another CCR song. No tacos.
Yeah.
No fucking macaroni and cheese, you know, and
sandy beaches. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Suddenly I'm like, yo, I want to fucking live, you know?
Yeah. You're like, oh, wait, I do like some stuff.
Yeah, like I want a dog and some mac and cheese and some fucking like B-list classic rock, you know?
Right.
And suddenly like I have a passion for life again, you know? But I do think it is, you know, sort of what you said of you know, just sort of an issue of using mental exercises and like framing stuff, you know,
well, reframing it.
Yes. The correct framing of it, or perspective, or, you know, and that's the thing is that, like, you know, I mean, I basically did a double dose of, you know, what was sort of prescribed to have the ketamine experience. If somebody had tried to fucking take my wallet from me or, you know, stick their balls in my mouth, I couldn't have done anything.
Yeah.
But if you're a gopher, a hole is a fantastic place to be.
Yeah.
You know, and for me in that moment, I was in my room with a friend who I trusted, who was just sort of there to monitor me babbling and like looking at a fucking $19 drug light I got off Amazon. Like it was excellent to go in the hole. I'm delighted I went to the hole. I can't wait to go back into the hole, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, I think it's a good example of how personal like drug use and alcohol use is. I was talking to Lanigan. I worked with Mark Lanigan and edited his biography his memoir. And we were talking about addiction and stuff. And I was like, you know, I mean, I would never compare my experience to yours. You know, I was just an alcoholic. And he was like, don't you ever belittle your experience like that. He said, for the rest of my life, I will be grateful to heroin because heroin saved me from a life as an alcoholic. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit, I never thought of it that way. Yeah. You know,
alcohol is, I think alcohol is probably worse than a lot of them just because it is so socially acceptable. And so easy for anyone at any time to get. I mean, even like mouthwash and stuff like that, you know, if someone's really desperate, rubbing alcohol, I've seen people drink. So yeah, it is one of those.
I have drank both of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, you know, I mean, the Stanhope has a bit about like, oh, you know, the only reason that we value like ecstasy or coke or something like that is that you have to fucking sit in a Denny's parking lot for 45 minutes to wait to get it from a guy, you know, and that like, the flip side of that bit is that if they invented a new drug today that was like tasteless, odorless, if you took too much of it, it could, you know, you could get raped, you could rape someone else, you could go blind, your organs could fail. Like every fucking suburban mothers coalition would rise up to crush it. And that's alcohol. Yeah. That is our like American lifeblood, you know.
Well, I mean, just like, I mean, other countries as well. Like it's probably one of the oldest. I mean, maybe
it's gotta be.
But like weed, probably definitely mushrooms and stuff like that. But people didn't even know a lot of times, you know, they thought that that they were witches, you know, because these people were fucked up, or that, you know, that they were put under some type of spell. They didn't even know. What was it, like a lot of the witch trials is because some of the bread was moldy and had like those spores on it, and they were just tripping balls and they weren't actually witches at all, which is hilarious. But yeah, it's definitely got to be. Well, I mean, yeah, even if you go back to fucking like the Bible and that whole story is like Jesus turns wine into water, water into wine or whatever. Yeah. So we've been drinking for a real long time. It's like Horan is probably like the first alcohol, like Horan was the first job. Alcohol was probably the first drug that people just can't seem to kick.
And farts are the first joke.
Yeah.
And always funny. Always funny.
I still love your mom jokes too. I'm a big fan of like a good solid your mom joke. And I'm like, God damn, that was good.
Yeah, they sneak up on you because it's sort of like you think you've heard everyone, and when people can turn it on its head. Have you read The Compass of Pleasure?
No, I have not.
It's a book about drug use and drug abuse, and sort of like basically the same center in your brain is activated if you're eating really spicy food, if you're meditating, if you're praying, if you're having sex, or if you're fucking doing meth or something.
Yeah, it's the serotonin, dopamine, it's the happy chemical.
Yeah, it's like it's all the same thing, you know. And one of the, and this is maybe weird territory for a sober alcoholic to go into, but if you look at it, like, human beings aren't the only ones who get fucked up.
No, we're not.
There's
koalas.
There's like reindeer that will not only eat psychedelic mushrooms, but then when they see pea-stained snow, they eat the pea-stained snow in case another deer has eaten the mushrooms and peed out the the active ingredient. And so it's like all kinds of animals. Goats eat green coffee beans, to get that fucking goatin in the morning. God,
catnip, for Christ's sakes. Have you ever seen a cat on catnip?
Yeah. So what purpose if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, like, what purpose did drugs have in our lives?
Like how
I fucking learned a million things when I was fucked up.
Like some of my like most like definite life lessons and stuff just about the world in general have all been on drugs. It's nothing I've ever learned in a book. It's from either taking some acid or maybe doing too much coke, like just certain things that, I have definitely learned way more from getting fucked up than a lot of things. I think it's the experience of it. You expand, your mind is expanded more, like different parts of the brain are working, and you do have that subconscious part that you don't really pay attention to, that's kind of more active and like coming out a little bit, or the shadow self, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I definitely think that's why I think everyone should try mushrooms at least one time.
I ate a couple mushrooms when I was out in southeastern Ohio on tour. And I didn't eat enough to like have some kind of like cosmic epiphany. But the thing that I learned was like very sort of like banal and mundane, which is that, like, when I go on the road, I smoke cigarettes because I enjoy smoking cigarettes, and it's nice to be able to come off stage and fucking I can't have a drink, to have a thing, and so I took a couple of mushrooms, and then I was like having trouble breathing. And the epiphany that I came to was, fucking 44 years old. It's time to stop smoking. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, get it? You had your chance, and it's like, the tie-dye is out, smoking is out. There are things that are appropriate for a man of your age, and this ain't one of them.
What about vaping? Have you tried like vaping? Although I tend to cough more, especially with the nicotine vapes. Like, I'll cough more on those than I do on regular cigarettes. I've been a smoker for going on 26 years now. I like it a lot.
I still remember like fucking doing a line of speed and like opening a pack of Marlboros in Virginia, where they're like, they're so fresh or almost like wet.
Yeah.
It's like a rare state or something.
And they have that smell, and like,
and it, like, your fingers are sticky, and it's like, and you're smoking it, and it's so heavy, it's like a fucking meal.
It's so good.
I can't wait to have another cigarette. That's definitely gonna stick.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing that like I've quit a couple of times smoking, like I want to say 5-6 times, and it's always about for almost a year. And then I'll go out and have a couple of drinks, and then someone will have them, because I smoke Newport 100s and I'm a snob. Like, I don't like other cigarettes. So if someone has one, I'm like, oh, I could have one because I'm a non-smoker now and I could do this. And it really is just that thing, all of a sudden I'm keeping a pack of cigarettes at a comedy club. And then the next thing I know, I'm taking that pack of cigarettes home with me. And then all of a sudden I'm a fucking smoker again and be like, wait, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Like not even paying attention to how that happens. Yeah, I love cigarettes. I would like to quit, but I also like it a lot. So that's like, I know they're horrible for me, but I also love them a lot.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, and that's the thing is like, I never, I've never gotten to the point where I was like a fucking, 2-pack a day guy, but like, where I just like have a couple cigarettes in the evening. And it's always, I sort of a sense of completion, like, okay, the day is done, and now I can sit down and fucking relax. But I mean, I run like 5 or 6 days a week too, which is like,
oh, that's good. I can't.
Why are you doing these two things that are totally fight each other?
When I was younger, when I first started smoking, like I used to run the mile and smoke a fucking cigarette because we were outside and they couldn't see, or I didn't think we would blow the smoke in our fucking shirts or whatever. I used to be able to run the mile. I think it was like the shortest time was like 5:50 or something like that. Yeah, which is actually really fast. I was better at long distance than sprinting though. But yeah, and then I started smoking. And I'm not sure if that's like a hereditary thing because like my mom doesn't smoke, but pretty much everyone on her family side, her side of the family smokes. Like her dad, my grandfather, died of stage 4 lung cancer. He was one of those people that he would wake up in the middle of the night, smoke a cigarette, put it out. Like he smoked 3 packs of Marlboros a day for pretty much his entire fucking life until he started having stroke after heart attack until stage 4 lung cancer. So there is that. But my grandmother on my father's side, she was fine. Like she smoked Pall Mall non-filters until she was 85 years old. Did she have to walk around with an oxygen tank? Yeah. And she smoked cigarettes with the oxygen tank and tell my uncle that she hopes she blows up the house because he had her resuscitated once when she had a DNR. But my uncle's very terrifying. So
I always wanted to make merch that was like the Guns N' Roses logo, but it just said DNR.
Nice. I was thinking about getting that tattooed somewhere. Like I never wanted like chest or neck tattoos, but I think that would be like they would see it,
a tramp stamp that just says DNR.
DNR. Please do not resuscitate. I did this for a reason. A lot of times.
I'm happier.
I think with because we were talking about like suicide and stuff like that, because there hasn't been a day I want to say since I was like 8 years old, I want to say that I haven't thought about suicide. Some days it's more prominent and some days I do put the gun, there's like 1 or 2 of those. But yeah, there is that. I did like how you said, instead of be like, oh, you have this to live for, be like, what would happen when I would die? Like one of the main reasons why I haven't committed suicide is because of my dog. It's because I'm like, who the fuck is going to take care of my dog? Like, I don't trust anyone with her. And she's so, like, now she's older and she's like going deaf. Like she keeps falling too. So and stuff. So I'm like, I'm like, I can't leave this bitch alone. I'm like, someone needs to take care of my dog. Once my dog dies though, no, I'm kidding.
No, I have the same arrangement with my mom. When I was like 22, we were shit-faced and playing Scrabble, and she made me promise that that I wouldn't kill myself. And I was like, okay, fine, fuck it, I promise,
Yeah.
And but when she's gone, it's not like she's gonna kick my ass for
right. I know,
for breaking a promise, But yeah, my cat's got to grow thumbs because she's special needs. She's like sway backed and her hind feet stick out like this, and she has a brain issue, so every time she shakes her head she falls down. And
I've seen
it's funny, the sober guy with the drunk cat, but I there are definitely, I think that's what it's basically been to be a pet owner during the pandemic is, so many of us were like, well, today's the big day. And then you're like, oh, who's going to feed the dog?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. All right, I'll try again.
Yeah. There was one time I was going to drive my dog. I drove my dog out to my parents. I'm like, okay, if anything, they could keep her because they got like their dog had passed away. And I'm like, they could use another dog. But they had gotten another dog and this dog was insane. And I'm like, I can't leave my dog with this fucking psycho. And so that derailed. I'm like, this bitch has kept me alive better than any of my
It's weird. I mean, in that instance, it's not even your dog. It's like, oh, well, their dog's a fucking twat, you know, like it's that dog.
They never, they always have fucking insane dogs. So my stepdad loves like labs, golden labs, black labs. That's pretty much all they've ever owned. And he doesn't train them. And he doesn't want to get them fixed. So it's just this freaking big ass dog with fucking balls just trying to hump everything. It's funny. Gotta love family. Gotta love it. So you had an album come out in 2020 over quarantine, if I remember.
Oh yeah, correctly. I mean, I put a bunch of stuff out. I have 3 new albums up on Bandcamp. I have a what are they called? There's one which is called
the LPs, like the little mini. Is that what they are?
3 EPs. They're all up on Bandcamp. One is called I Thought There Would Be More People Here, a live record, which is, it's just one of those
every comedy show I've ever done.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I hear this phrase so often. I need to
incorporate it.
Yeah. And then I did one which is sort of a studio record that I did with Ian from Riverboat Gamblers, and that's called I'll Be Gone, which I guess fitting when on the heels of the conversation about suicide. You know, there was a point in my life where I was just sort of like always leaving something and someone. And you know, that was the record that came out of that. And then there's another one that of course I can't fucking think of the title of. But right now, as we speak, I have a Kickstarter going. I started publishing my writing 10 years ago with Amazon, and I had 7 best-selling Kindle singles.
Nice.
You know, the big story about sort of getting sober and becoming a distance runner, sold over 100,000 copies, but somehow never made it into print. So this year, you know, sort of my 10-year anniversary of publishing my writing, I will be publishing, self-publishing a physical collection of my Kindle singles.
Nice.
With a forward or introduction by endurance athlete Rich Roll, and a forward by everybody's favorite capitalist Jeff Bezos. At the time, it just seemed like a funny, cool thing to do, and now I'm like, wait, I don't know. This feels a little divisive.
Right? Yeah. So is he still in space? Did we leave him there?
I haven't checked. He hasn't texted, so I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. Well, keep me updated.
You know, honestly, I mean, the thing that he wrote for the book is it's incredibly sweet and incredibly beautiful. And also, you know, at the time when I started publishing with Amazon, they had this Kindle Singles program where you got 70% of your of your sales. And that changed my fucking life. And it bought a house for my mother. And
that's awesome.
You know, I'm not a billionaire apologist. I don't think there are ethical billionaires. However, the decisions that Amazon made and that he made absolutely positively affected my life. And I'm fucking grateful, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my pitch. Everybody, please give me all your money for the damn Kickstarter, and so I can get this book made. And hopefully the next record will be with Mark Lanigan producing. I'm looking at doing some more road dates with Kyle Schutt from The Sword. So if Delta doesn't fucking shut us down and kill us all again, I will be back out there doing what I love the least.
Right. Where can people find you on social media and stuff?
This probably hard for y'all to believe, but I'm the only Mishka Shubaly out there. So I'm at Mishka Shubaly on Instagram, at Mishka Shubaly on Twitter. I'm the only Mishka Shubaly on Facebook.
Mishka Shubaly. Yeah, that's got to be nice. My name, Aaliyah Janine. I was the only one for a very long time. And now there's actually people with the same name. And then there are hundreds of accounts that just have my name and they're just numbered, which is fun.
And those accounts just disseminate quotes that you've said?
No. They're on Instagram. They're literally numbered Aaliyah Janine 17. 59.
That was a joke. I know it's just pictures of your body.
No. They don't even have pictures up.
Wait, it's not even like
no, they're just completely. They
oh.
just have like on Twitter. There's an account that has my like full name. Like you can find my last name on, Wikipedia, IMDb, but like I go by Aaliyah Janine, and that's just creepy to me that someone's just like, oh, let's put up her full name, and I contacted Twitter, but because they don't have her profile picture and they're not tweeting, they're not impersonating me. I'm like, I am literally the only Aaliyah Janine Daly Willis in the entire fucking world, because I have there's just all of the names, and I was just like, whatever, you're an asshole. Go ahead.
I can't get verified on Twitter because Mishka isn't my real first name. It's Mikhail, which is, it's sort of like the difference between Michael and Mike, but that's enough for them that they're like, nope.
Really? Because there's like, isn't that like, you could count that as a stage name? Because there's porn stars that are verified that don't use their real name.
Also, I may have just phoned it in when it came to making an effort. I like did it, and then I was like, "Do I care about this?" Or no.
Yeah, if there's as long as people aren't impersonating you or something like, because I have people that like will impersonate me, and also like people try to contact fans and like get money from them, and like a lot of like I don't even have like an Amazon wish list. Like I put out my PO box every once in a while. Someone wants to send me some Nick Cage stuff. No Nick Cage stuff. But I did get a Bukowski book and a couple of other things, which is nice. But yeah, I'm like, I've never been into, even when I was in porn, like every once in a while I'll be like, someone Venmo me $20 and I'll get $20. I'm just like, still got it. Yeah. Still hot, baby. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was a great conversation about ketamine. I definitely enjoyed it. Obviously, you can find this wonderful podcast where you find all of your wonderful podcasts. I'm your host, Aaliyah Janine. All right. Bye, everybody.